Hey guys, Eli here from Nintendo Network 64, here today to review The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds for the Nintendo 3DS. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds seems like a game that could have been more than what it was. No doubt the game is good, but that is a given among Zelda games. I went into the experience expecting amazing, and unfortunately, the game did not deliver on that end. Now, take this review with a large grain of salt, as I'm one of the 3 people who has never played the original Link to the Past. Why? Well, I'm still waiting on the Wii U Virtual Console version to play in order to play the game on my gamepad in bed. Due to this factor, I lack the nostalgia feel that many others might feel upon playing A Link Between Worlds. But on the other hand, this also gives me an edge over other reviewers as I can truly evaluate the game from a new slate perspective. The big thing that A Link Between Worlds is going for is its non-linearity. After the first 2 dungeons, players are free to complete almost all the rest in any order they wish. Most dungeons are item specific, which is a side effect of the non-linearity. Unfortunately, this poses a problem for the game, the difficulty. Whereas before, players will already have built up a repertoire of items before entering a late-game dungeon, this is not so within A Link Between Worlds. In fact, since dungeons can be played in any order, the late-game dungeons are just as easy as the beginning ones. There is a noticeable lack of a difficulty curve. Since dungeons are item-specific, if I ever became stumped, I would either use the item specific to the dungeon, or attach to a wall in Zelda's newest gameplay mechanic. Yes, A Link Between Worlds now has a new, very interesting gameplay mechanic. Link now possesses the ability to turn into a painting on a wall and traverse on a 2D plane. The mechanic itself is very creative and I wholly enjoyed it, but as previously mentioned, without the player having to utilize a wide variety of items within a single dungeon, this mechanic just makes A Link Between Worlds that much easier. The puzzles aren't the only thing that are easier during this quest through Hyrule, as the combat is equally unimpressive. Once again, the lack of linearity means an absence of a difficulty curve, meaning late-game dungeons are just as easy as earlier ones. Sure, there may be a challenging boss fight here and there, but in reality the situation is that once my game ended, I had been defeated a total of 1 time. Sure, death actually means something this time around, since the player loses all of his rented items upon death, but the fact is that the absence of challenge and death means that this consequence is arbitrary. It may come off like I'm dissatisfied with the gameplay of Link Between Worlds, but that is not necessarily true. I am simply unimpressed. Playing through most of the other games in the franchise, I know that the team could have made a better, cleverer game. The combat, puzzles, and exploration are all good, if not great, but this game does not live up to the expectations set by its predecessors in the aspect of gameplay. Some of the other aspects of Link Between Worlds shine though. The game features an awesome orchestrated soundtrack, which makes a world, or maybe 2, of a difference over previous handheld Zelda games. Essentially, the fingerstyle guitar, trumpet, and the rest of the orchestra make the tunes within A Link Between Worlds some of the best in the franchise. Both the new songs and the remixes provide for excellent listening material fit for a Zelda game. On a similar note, the graphics of A Link Between Worlds exceed the expectations of most 3DS games as well. In fact, A Link Between Worlds is one of the few games that utilizes the 3D mechanic of the 3DS very well, and the 3D even influences some of the dungeon design. The game itself runs very well at an incredibly smooth 60 frames per second, which allows the players to have unprecedented control over Link compared to previous games in the franchise. Technically speaking, A Link Between Worlds is quite the accomplishment. Story-wise, The Link Between Worlds can leave players wanting. Most of the game has very little, any narrative. The standard Zelda fare of save the 7 stages is still present, but that's not really that big of a deal, as Zelda's more a game about the gameplay anyway. It is worthwhile to point out though, that A Link Between Worlds easily has one of the best endings in the franchise, and one which should encourage players to play through the rest of the game. Overall, A Link Between Worlds is a good, solid game, but you already knew that before coming into this review. Unfortunately, compared to other games in the franchise, the game does not stand out so well. Is the game worth playing? Sure, it's probably one of the better games on the 3DS. Will you be disappointed by the difficulty of the dungeons and the combat? Probably. No doubt, every 3DS owner should be picking up this game, as it is an excellent showcase of what the 3DS can pull off, but do not be surprised if you are disappointed by Link's latest adventure. This game gets an 8 out of 10. Please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, it really helps, and see you guys next time for another review.